In a world obsessed with big armies and loud threats, there exists a way of war that is silent, patient, and devastatingly effective. Israel doesn't just fight wars. It hunts networks, dismantles enemies, and does so in the shadows. From daring assassinations to cyber sabotage, this is the art of shadow war. And for India, facing its own complex threats, Israel's silent lessons may be the most important to learn. This is Deep Rise Theory, and today we're going deep inside Israel's covert doctrine and what it can teach India about fighting smarter. To understand Israel's strategy, you need to understand its reality. Since its founding in 1948, Israel has been surrounded by enemies. Multiple wars, terror attacks in city streets, suicide bombers, rocket fire. In 1967, the Six-Day War changed the region overnight. Israel seized territories to create buffers, but it also gained new enemies, militant groups embedded in Gaza and the West Bank. In 1972, the world watched in horror as Israeli athletes were murdered at the Munich Olympics by Black September. That moment transformed Israel's approach. No longer would it rely only on conventional wars. It would pursue enemies anywhere, anytime. Israel realized it could not afford drawn-out, expensive wars. Instead, it needed to be surgical, deniable, and relentless. This is how the doctrine of the Shadow War was born. Shadow War is not about tanks rolling over borders. It's about intelligence, deception, psychological operations. Israel's leadership understood something crucial. Terror groups don't fight in uniform. They hide in cities. They use civilians as shields. Bombing them openly creates more enemies. Instead, Israel's doctrine is to destroy their networks quietly, cut funding, disrupt supply chains, assassinate leaders when the world isn't watching. It's a war fought in alleys, in foreign capitals, in bank transfers, in whispered meetings. The philosophy is simple. Make your enemy paranoid. Never let them feel safe. Israel wants its enemies to wonder every time they open a door if Mossad is waiting. This doctrine is also about buying time, reducing immediate threats while preparing for larger conflicts. It's war without headlines, but it's war all the same. Let's talk about how this doctrine plays out in real life. One of the most famous operations was Wrath of God after Munich. Mossad operatives tracked down and eliminated planners of the massacre across Europe. No courtroom, no extradition, just justice, delivered in hotel rooms and city streets. Another operation? The capture of Adolf Eichmann, architect of the Holocaust. Mossad agents in Argentina spent years tracking him, confirming his identity, kidnapping him, and flying him back to Israel for trial. Or consider Operation Entebbe. When a plane was hijacked and taken to Uganda, Israel launched a rescue mission thousands of kilometers away, freeing hostages in a stunning assault. More recently, consider Israel's cyber operations against Iran's nuclear program. Stuxnet, a computer worm, is widely believed to have been developed by Israel and the US to sabotage Iranian centrifuges. Or the assassination of Iranian nuclear scientists. Precision hits designed to slow down a nuclear program without ever declaring war. These are not just attacks. They are psychological warfare. Messages to enemies. We can reach you. You're never safe. But it's not just the missions. It's how they're planned. Mossad builds networks of local assets. It turns enemies into informants. It invests years in patient observation. It uses fake companies, forged passports, human intelligence. Every operation is planned with layers of redundancy. Agents may not even know the full plan. And Mossad prioritizes deniability. If something goes wrong, the government can deny involvement. Israel also invests heavily in signals intelligence, cyber warfare, surveillance technologies. The point isn't to fight many wars. but to make sure those wars are short and controlled. They understand that public support is fickle, and large-scale wars invite international condemnation. Shadow wars allow Israel to manage threats without catastrophic escalation. It is a military strategy designed for a nation that cannot afford mistakes. Now let's talk about India. India faces cross-border terrorism, insurgent groups with foreign support, proxy wars. For years, India's responses were reactive. Diplomatic protests, troop deployments, or sometimes no response at all. That has changed. Surgical strikes across the line of control, airstrikes in Balakot, quiet operations in disputed regions. But Israel's model suggests India can go further. Build deeper human intelligence networks in hostile territories. Turn local assets. Destabilize funding channels. Use psychological warfare to divide and weaken groups. Create plausible deniability so operations don't invite international outrage. This is not about abandoning conventional power. It's about adding another layer, a patient, invisible layer to India's defense doctrine. India's enemies should never feel safe, even in their strongholds. Israel's lesson is not do what we do, but think how we think. Win the shadow war before the real war even begins. Conclusion plus call to action. Israel's shadow war doctrine was born from necessity. It was refined through tragedy, failure, and relentless learning. It is not perfect. It is not always moral, but it is effective. For India, facing its own security challenges, these lessons are vital. Fight smart, build intelligence, strike precisely, and never let your enemy know when or where you will come. This is the art of the shadow war. If you want to understand more about military strategy, geopolitical realities, and the mindset behind decisive leadership, subscribe to Deep Rise Theory. Drop a comment below. What lesson do you think India should adopt most urgently? Until next time, stay alert, think strategically, and remember, real power often works in silence. And there's a deeper lesson here, not just for militaries, but for all of us. Shadow war is about patience, discipline, information. It's about preparing quietly while others boast. In business, it means studying competitors before launching your move. In leadership, it means cultivating loyalty and intelligence before making decisions. In life, it means never revealing your full plan until it's too late to stop you. Israel's doctrine is a masterclass in strategic thinking. It teaches us that silence is not weakness, it's preparation. That decisive action is not the same as loud action. And that real power lies in making your opponent guess what you'll do next.